Hi there, my name is Taylor, and today we're going to be talking about feminism in Shakespeare's Othello and how it has impacted the world of feminism that we know today. So a brief overview of the corresponding paper that I've written. I talk about feminism in Shakespeare's Othello and how the oppression of good-natured female characters highlights and calls attention to the cruelty of man. This cruelty is seen in characters such as Othello and Iago. So the question is, in what ways has this carried into the world? How has Shakespeare's view of feminism and his writing about feminism influenced the feminist movement that we know today? To understand this, we first need to talk about the female characters that he writes of and the stereotypes that he presents them with. So these stereotypes that he presents these three characters with are stereotypes that we see in today's modern culture. So we're going to be talking about Desdemona, Emilia, and Bianca. Desdemona, we see her as this Virgin Mary figure. She does no wrong and almost serves as a plot device for Shakespeare to highlight Othello's downfall into his realization that his actions were completely cruel and he was completely wrong in his actions throughout the play. And then we have Emilia, who is almost the middle ground of women. She is submissive to her husband, but also not like that at all when she is talking to Desdemona and telling her about the world and about the mistreatment that women face because of men and just marriage as a whole. She's a very spunky character, and she's very important in highlighting the differences between herself and Desdemona. And then of course we have Bianca. Bianca is a prostitute of sorts, and yet she is so much more than that because she's a very loving and dedicated individual to the man that she loves, who is Cassio. All of these women come from very different walks of life. You know, the contrast between Desdemona versus Bianca or Desdemona versus Emilia, completely different, but it's very important in the ideas of stereotypes. So women nowadays, as they were back then, are often stereotyped into a category that they must fit into. So for instance, if we were to characterize these three characters or stereotype them, Desdemona would be considered the good girl because she is a good girl who always does as she is told for the most part, and she is that Virgin Mary kind of figure. Emilia would be seen as the mother figure because she is very quick to help Desdemona understand the world as it is and the relationships that they have with men. And then Bianca would be seen as the hot girl. You know, think the Megan types of the Megan Fox types in films and literature. All of these women can be categorized into these stereotypes, but Shakespeare was able to kind of push the boundaries a little bit. So all of these characters have traits that are outside of their stereotype. Just as women today, when we are stereotyped, there are traits that we have inside of us that do not they don't exist within the realm of that stereotype. You know, if you have a bad girl, she does good at times. She's not always bad. If you have a good girl, she rebels at times. She's not always good. There is that pushing of the boundaries nowadays that women are unafraid of. And now, you know, women can be whatever they want to be. This was brought on by Shakespeare's three female characters because they are quick to push the boundaries that they are put into by the stereotypes that they are assigned. You know, Desdemona is quick to, you know, say to the group of men that she's surrounded by, I want to go with my husband to Cyprus, you need to let me. And they do, and she is able to go. So she has that little feisty side to her that, you know, is not in that good girl trope that she's assigned. We have Emilia, who is a very emotional woman, and you know, when she's abused by her husband Iago, you can tell that it hurts her. When she's called a villainous whore later on by Iago, you know that she is feeling, she's not just that cold-hearted, sarcastic, all-knowing woman. She has that emotional depth to her. And we also have Bianca, who is not the stereotyped that she is placed by, because she has this deep feeling for Cassio and she loves Cassio more than anything. And even the last scene that she is written to be in, she's protecting Cassio and trying to make sure that he's better. She's not just this, you know, this prostitute who doesn't care about the men that she's with and is very promiscuous, because she is very dedicated to the one she loves. This pushing of stereotypes was brought on by Shakespeare and is very present in today's culture and the feminist movement as a whole. So in total, it's also meant to represent that because all these women are different, they all can be good. You know, they're not defined by these stereotypes. So all of these women are different, all of these women are inherently good, and all are oppressed, which is very important in understanding the feminist undertones that Shakespeare writes of. Next, we're going to be talking about spousal abuse in Othello. This is sadly a very present idea. The marriages that in the relationships we see in Shakespeare's Othello are all very corrupt and sad, and he does this for a reason, however. So we see Desdemona and Othello have a very rocky relationship. Obviously, it ends in her murder, as does Iago and Emilia, ends in her murder. And they also are mistreated by the men by being called whores, and Desdemona is slapped at one point in front of everyone. I've included examples above if you can see them. But the fact that Shakespeare was so quick to write on the abuse of these women and have these women be extremely good-hearted, good-natured individuals, he did this for a reason. He did not make this abuse as a comedic relief as some plays during this time do, but instead did it to, draw forth this understanding from his readers, like, why are these wonderful female characters not getting the justice they deserve? When women were watching this play, internally they must have said, well, I'm being mistreated. Why can't I have my happy ending? It was almost like a realization when they were watching this play that they deserved better, just as Bianca, Amelia, and Desdemona deserved better because of the men, degrading them and being terrible to them. So it really brought forth this attention that was needed to push the feminist movement forward and understand that women deserve to be heard, women deserve to be able to ask for help and seek help, and that's why it was brought forth by this whole movement. And Shakespeare had such a hand in doing this. Maybe it wasn't even intentional, but that's how it came forth, because any person seeing these innocent women being murdered and hurt would say, why does it have to be that way? And that pushes the movement forward. So Shakespeare, speaking of the mistreatment of women, that will in turn influence how authors would follow suit, and they normalize the fact that women deserve better, that women deserve to speak out against what's happening to them, and it normalized it to the point where it has influenced the fight for women's rights to grow stronger. So him planting that seed to say women deserve better, and women deserve to be treated better than these good-natured female characters in my play, that seed has grown into the feminist movement that we know today. So lastly, we're going to be talking about this feminist movement that I just mentioned. So how did Shakespeare's oppression of women lead to the feminist movement and these marches and rallies that we see happening in today's modern world? Firstly, we have the Women's March. This took place January 1st, 2017, and it fought for women's equal pay and women's discrimination. It was basically women coming forth and saying, we deserve better. We deserve to be treated as equal and be paid as equal individuals. And this was a huge gathering and a huge part of the feminist movement as it's grown stronger in the last few years. So women's being able to speak out against this was completely a direct tie to Shakespeare's writing of the mistreatment of women, and women finally realizing we need to take advantage of this exposure and really turn it into something that will prove that we deserve to be better treated, and respected as individuals. This is seen again in the Me Too movement. So the Me Too movement was the sexual abuse allegations and how women were being silenced and not believed by the men that they were with, or the men that they were trying to tell their stories to. This is seen as a direct mirror in Othello, as Desdemona is trying to tell Othello that she did not sleep with Cassio, and she's trying to project her truth to him, just as these women in the Me Too movement were, and yet he silenced her. He said, that's wrong, you're lying. And it was this direct tie that leads to movements like the Me Too movement, where women are saying, no, we are right, we are telling the truth, and we deserve better. So did Shakespeare help or hurt this movement? In my opinion, he completely helped this movement grow into what it is today, because oppression of a good-natured woman in literature aids in the movement against female oppression. So any exposure is good exposure when it comes to this, because people need to realize what's going on and come to the conclusion that we need to do something about this, and women deserve to be treated better. And Shakespeare was so present in understanding this movement and pushing it forward. So if Shakespeare hated women, and if he really did not want this to come across as feminist, he would have made his female characters terrible people and died deaths because they deserved it, as Othello did. Othello deserved what came to him at the end because of all the terrible things he did. The women were completely innocent and they died. So if he wanted to make that statement, he would have made the statement. So this is why Shakespeare's piece was entirely feminist and how it's impacted the world today. I want to thank you all for listening today, and I wish I could all meet you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your holiday season, and thank you all for a great semester. Have a good one.